Well, we're only one day into the new year and already the ABC is under fire, this time for last night's racially charged Sydney fireworks coverage. ABC host Charlie Pickering began the broadcast with this.
I'm Zan Rowe.
And I'm Charlie Pickering. We are thrilled to be coming to you live from Gadigal land for the New Year's Eve celebrations.
Gadigal land, OK, we expect that from the ABC, but then viewers had to sit through the now obligatory Welcome to Country, during which Joanne Bell lauded an Aboriginal who fought against Europeans.
To kick things off, our Welcome to Country, performed by Auntie Joan Bell and Paquita Bell.
My name is Joan Bell. I am a proud Wiradjuri Gadigal woman. We honour our elders and leaders, including Barangaroo, Pemaway and many others who fought the first boat people who landed in Sydney Cove.
Fought the first boat people who arrived. OK, whatever. But then right before the 9 p.m. fireworks, when children around the country were tuning in, the ABC showed a performance from Indigenous group 3% that really annoyed parents in particular. And I can understand why. Have a listen.
It's the stolen generations haunting trauma that I see. And that's the part of history on which we never speak. Always moving backwards keeps the future out of reach. Let's separate the men from the boys. They got that money on the market and they failed to hear the voice. They stole the land in the name of their kings. Now look at how they act when you mention Alice Springs. You know that
It's all pretty angry. They locked us up and threw away the key. Stolen generations. Aboriginal people are always moving backwards. Australians failed to hear the voice. Australians stole their land. Happy New Year, kids, from your friends at the ABC. To discuss this and more, I'm joined by Sky News contributor Evelyn Rae and history lecturer and author Stephen Shavura. Stephen, if this is what we're going to be served up on New Year's Eve, do you reckon most Australians will want Indigenous groups curating the 9 p.m. fireworks again?
No, and this is just the ABC's last hurrah. They lost the voice and they have to have the last word. And of course, these sorts of things, all they tell Australians, and we've got to be careful that these performers and these activists do not necessarily speak for the majority of Indigenous Australians, but essentially their message is, you are our enemies. You are our enemies. And that is only, it's not just going to make a lot of Australians just sort of not want sort of more Indigenous issues and organisers involved in New Year's Eve, but it's just going to set any legitimate cause for Indigenous Australians back. Because when you just keep pummeling the Australian public, calling them invaders, and saying ridiculous things like, we never talk about this. I mean, it's all we ever talk about. Right. I mean, where have these people actually been? You keep sending these messages, Australians are just going to say, fine, if we're the enemy, well, why would we help you? Yeah. You've just declared us the enemy. And I'm not saying that's what was going through their minds with the voice, but I saw a spectacular instance of how all this flunks with the voice, which failed so badly.
Evelyn, let me go to you. Is New Year's Eve fireworks the right platform to start doing social justice conversations?
Look, the simple answer is no, a big fat no. But look, there's very few things that's left for children and for families to enjoy that's not infested with political messaging from these overrepresented, noisy minority groups. Look, nobody wants a side of guilt with their fireworks, their families and the music. But this is a problem with the ABC. When your salary is paid by taxes, you don't have to worry about what viewers think because you know that you're going to be getting paid regardless of that. And if you privatise the ABC or if you made it a subscription base, I guarantee you that the network would be broke within 6 months and they would go under. And perhaps that's what us Australians should be pushing for.
I think you're probably right about that. Well, social engineers are at it again, trying to change how we speak to each other. Quality advocates want a language overhaul as part of an update to what they say are out-of-date anti-discrimination laws in New South Wales. Now, part of the language they want to change includes saying sibling instead of brother and sister, and you've got to say different sex. You're not allowed to say opposite sex. Stephen, this attack on language, is it really about inclusion or is there something else going on here?
Yeah, well, the progressive left behind this, they know very well that the way we think is to a large extent determined by our words and our language. And if they can control the language that we hear, if they can control the words that we hear, the language that we speak, then indirectly over time they know that they can control people's thoughts. And what this is ultimately about is controlling people's thoughts through controlling the language. They say things like, oh, we've got to get with the times, but really they're trying to drag the times over to where they are, and the only way they can do it is with propaganda and state coercion, and this is just a perfect instance of it.
Well, Evan, let me go to you. News from America, where USA Boxing have just announced that men identifying as women will be allowed to fight in a female category, provided they've had a sex change and maintain low testosterone levels. Now, Australian boxer Ebony Bridges has slammed the decision on Twitter, writing, "This is wrong on so many levels. I will never agree to this. It's bad enough having trans women breaking records in other sports like track and field, swimming and powerlifting, but it's a bit different to them breaking our skulls in combat sport where the aim is to hurt you." Evelyn, would you want one of your female friends or family members paired in the ring against a transgendered boxer?
Look, I don't know about you, James, but I'm old enough to remember a time when violence against women was frowned upon, not something we would search to find loopholes in or technicalities to get around. I mean, we've already seen overseas the repercussions of biological men versus women in violent sports, such as skulls being completely fractured. It is appalling and it has to stop. And unfortunately, the only way it will end is if women just refuse to compete against biological men. I mean, sure, it might cost them a few medals in the short term, but in the long run, it's going to ensure that every gold medal in the future is given to a woman. And I mean, you know, it's one thing having to put up with pronouns and walking on eggshells, but I actually think the sports movement is going to be the transgender movement's undoing, because people might tolerate the eggshell walking and the pronouns, but what they're not going to tolerate is seeing their daughters and their sisters getting beaten up by blokes in the ring. The average Australian and the average person won't put up with it.
I read this bit of news and I thought, is it going to take a woman being killed to finally end this transgender madness?